right. Tell them, well, it's time for a change and we need it today. Nigel at the front and leading the way. This is the year that better must come with the AFC. We go win hands down. Real money start thief when the eyes start drill. Corruption the inside the cup still. Guyana need change and a man with the will. The choice is clear, it's the man Nigel. Two power ship and enough blackout still. Cost of living so high and you can't pay bill. You feel them is for you, don't just swallow that pill. Vote a man for the people, the man Nigel. Put up your hand if you love Nigel. Better must come with the man Nigel. A man with the plan, a man with the skill. A man for the people, the man Nigel. Check this, too much thieving and plenty slackness. You talk for your rights and you get blacklist. They only act like the characters and actress. Choose a clean background and stay less practice. Put up your hand if you love Nigel, you. Better must come BFC and Nigel, you. Respected, educated, the man with the skill. The man for the people, the man Nigel. Nigel use a man with integrity. Nigel, look out for everybody. Nigel, not just friends and family. Better must come with the AFC.
We're on? Okay.
Yes. Good night, everyone. To those in Berbice and across Guyana, those on social media right now, hearing the sound of our voices and also watching. We want to say welcome to Alliance on the Move, a program coming to you with the kind compliments of the Alliance for Change. That one party that represents you, represents every single Guyanese. Of course, tonight we're joined with, for now, Kemraj Ramjatan, who's one of the founders of the Alliance for Change, and we're going to be joined with some other candidates and also representatives from the Alliance for Change. But for those in TV land, we ask that you call someone, or if you're on social media, share this live, because there is a message for you heading into a general and regional election scheduled for Monday, the 1st of September. Kemraj, welcome to Alliance on the Move. You're a regular here. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Devin. And it's a couple hours really to Elections Day.
Yes.
And as you know, we will be seeking the votes of the Barbicians on this program, and also making some comments and also criticisms, critiques of the PPP administration thus far. It's important to understand why it is that we say what we are saying, and it is largely because of what we have been getting as feedbacks in the community of Berbice. As you know, I haven't been as active as I used to because there's new leadership in the PPP. In the AFC.
Right, correct.
And in the something which you have to have, and which the PPP hasn't had for some time. But whatever it is fundamental that we in the Alliance for Change continue to educate politically on programs like these as to the corruption, the governance problems that we have at the parliamentary level, and we have done that over the years, the problems with GCOM and so many other aspects of their shortcomings, and the fact that they have not reviewed, the fact that they are telling our polling agents that they are denied status and credentials to be there on Elections Day, and a number of other things. But also the use or misuse of government resources being used by them and their party members during the course of the campaign period since the dissolution of Parliament, and so many other things. I want to say that indeed the dynamics of the politics of Guyana will constantly change.
Yes.
And that has happened over the past couple of months. We have seen other political parties coming in. We got 9 competitors, six competitors. And, the regulars are there. New parties have come on stream. And to a certain extent, then, all of these things we have to talk about in relation to what's happening in the political landscape. Also, we have to talk about sugar and rice, the difficulties of cost of living, and a number of other things. So I want to ask Barbicians to pay attention and also to utilize that to ensure that if you go to the polling station, on the 1st of September that you make sure that you vote for the Alliance for Change. And
Well,
if you don't feel that the Alliance for Change is going to do good for you, well, Barbicians, I am asking you, please, it will be unconscionable for you to go vote back for the PPP. You Barbicians on several occasions have indicated to me that cost of living and not having jobs that paying well, you can't eat 2 square meals a day. But we have this capacity whereby a lot of Barbicians still will hold out and say, well, we gotta go, we all party by my grandmama, my grandpapa, and everybody, Nana, Nani, always was there.
mm,
Well, as I have said on several occasions, Barbicians, Nana, Nani was a different time. That was a Jagan time. The Jagans were around. This party is not the party of Jagans and the working class anymore. You ask people, the Jaganites within the PPP, it is not true. And so it is fundamental that you withhold your support from them if you're not going to vote for the Alliance for Change. Stay home. Abstention politics is a good option to have at this time if you're going to wholly blindly go and vote for the People's Progressive Party. They have stolen your monies. All the institutions of government, they have literally corrupted and corroded the independence and so on. And so, to a certain extent, then I seek your support in that regard. Vote for the Alliance for Change. We have a very, very brilliant lawyer in our presidential candidate, Nigel Hughes. Laura George is there as an activist from the indigenous peoples area, very articulate and doing a good job thus far. And we feel that just like you had done on several occasions since 2005 when we formed, you must ensure that you vote for reason, and that reason comes from the AFC. That's my opening remark. I hope that you have some, Devin, because we are awaiting
yes.
Phil and Kathy later on.
So, Kemraj, I know we have been doing this program for a very long time here on Dave's TV, and you have been pleading with the Barbicians and even those that are online and across the world as it relates to the atrocities that the PPP has imposed on Guyanese. The cost of living in this country is ridiculously high. When we look at Guyana is the fastest growing economy. Over the last 5 years, the PPP has approved by their two-seat majority over $5 trillion. And also they came with several supplementals. But somehow the effects of the oil and gas industry that is booming and the amount of money that Guyana is making is not reaching the common man. We still find ever so often that it's a struggle for Barbicians and Guyanese when they go to the market, right? And the thing about it, what is affecting us mostly is that when you could come to the market years ago with $20,000 and pick up a whole bunch of things, that automatically has gone up to maybe about $80,000 for a month. And when you think about all the bills that our Guyanese brothers and sisters have to pay, whether it be rent, electricity, water, insurance, whatever it is, take care of their children is not enough.
No, it is true. Yeah, go ahead.
My question to you, Kamraj, is the AFC, in their policies over the last couple of months, have a plan to put money back in people's pockets so that they can have a healthy and better life? Or what say you?
Well, look, we want to urge, first of all, the private sector to ensure that they do, too,
Yes.
increase the wages or salaries of their employees. And we have it on record as part of our manifesto that there will be an 18% increase in salary for all government workers and the public servants and people in the disciplined forces,
Yeah.
which we said is going to be retroactive from September 1st, 2025.
Yes.
From that place, it will be what you call prospective, as it were, and 100,000 cash grant for every adult citizen. There is also certain amounts that we plan to give school child each term for purposes of transportation, uniform, and meals.
Correct.
And then also to raise the income tax threshold, which is not at the stage that we think it should be, to take care of the lower earners and to increase that to $250,000 and less. No tax on those earnings. That is fundamentally an important cash kind of transfer to the ordinary Guyanese as a result of this magnificent revenue stream that we have called the oil and gas revenue stream. When we signed that contract, this same People's Progressive Party cussed down that contract. They said it is the rottenest contract and they will renegotiate. Well, we had indicated to them that it was difficult because ExxonMobil said that if we did not sign on to the terms that Janet Jagan and Robert Passad and a number of them had done in some period of time, 12 years before, that they're not going to go into production. These are powerful transnational companies. We indicated that we want a 1% more of the royalty from 1% to 2%. And they said, all right, we'll give you that. Then we managed to get a couple of things minor, but they did not want to go into production until such time as they got us to sign on to the agreement. And we signed. And we are earning today in the vicinity of 3 to 4 billion US dollars every year. Every year. And the thing has mushroomed an industry around it, whereby a lot of Guyanese got shore bases. They're making millions of US dollars. Guyanese are being employed as a result of that industry and so on. And then it has helped also with what we call indirect or ancillary businesses now, because those people want chicken, they want pork, they want beef, they want so much food supplies on the platform that got 1,000 and more employees and things like that. And so it helps in all of that. But this was, for the PBP, a rotten contract to the extent they are going to renegotiate it. They have not. They did not keep that promise.
They have not. And what sometimes our Guyanese folks fail to also realize is that in that agreement, in addition to the 2% royalty, by the way, as the AFC, we would really like to see a better contract. And we did say that when we get into office, we're going to renegotiate and ensure that Guyanese get more out of this agreement. But one of the things that was signed onto is the local content provisions, which, Kemraj, you were talking about. Because now you have aligned businesses who are benefiting indirectly and directly from the oil and gas industry. Because of signing those or adding those provisions, we are now seeing corporate social responsibility being a major thing, and that is transforming many of our communities across Guyana. The Alliance for Change championed that. And we can even mention, too, the Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, GYEITI. We signed on to that to give greater transparency when it comes to the earnings and spending of those needed money from the oil and gas industry. We have signed on to that. But sadly, Kemraj, as we are right now, I know the Barbicians are what they want to know what is going to happen to the sugar industry and the rice industry. As a party, we've been championing diversification and ensuring that we get more out of the soil. Kemraj, can you add to that, please?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, even the Barbicians have now agreed that the sugar industry is in a state that you ought not to put more good money behind a bad industry. Last night on a program that I did in Georgetown here, I indicated that the cost of production for a pound of sugar was 36 cents or whatever it was. It is not 36 cents for cost of producing a pound of sugar. It's almost a $1 and more per pound of sugar. And we sell the thing outwards in the international market for about 16 cents a pound. That is the loss that we are making when we sell this thing out to other people outside of the country. And it is not going to be profitable because it was only profitable for a set of years under the PPP and prior to that under the PNC because of the special prices the European Union was giving us. I need not repeat this because the sugar industry people know about it. Sugar workers are conscious of all of these facts and so on in the industry. So the whole point of it is that is number one. You cannot continue to pour money and then sell off at a loss. Otherwise, you will affect your own treasury. You had to do what is called right sizing to break even and to make the industry what is called at least survive to the extent of the lands being available for other diversified crops and so on. And also so that you can have the local sugar that you could produce here for your own consumption and a little bit more for export earnings.
That's right.
But that is not how you run the industry, as the PPP has said that they're going to bring back Skeldon, they're going to bring back all the factories that were closed down and so on. It is not going to go anywhere. And the second reason I must tell you is that the sugar workers, next generation, their sons and daughters, them don't want to go plant cane and cut cane in the hot sun.
True.
4 o'clock in the morning, they got to wake up, go in truck and go on a back dam and all kind of thing. But that is what the PPP wants them to do. And I've been talking about this all the time.
Wow,
the PPP want them to get their backs blazed in the sun, and so that the only thing they can cogitate on is how much money more we can get and whatever, but not thinking about how the PPP is corrupting the whole treasury with this kind of thing. And so the next generation of workers is not there. As a matter of fact, a number of people have come out. Even the last general manager for Gaisuco, he has indicated that the thing came about as a result of the bad management of the PPP. I forgot his name now, but he was the general manager at Gaisuco, the CEO. And he was saying that. And we understand that too because it is the truth. Out there, you're not getting the people to go and cut cane. You're not getting the people to turn out whenever the cane now is ready because the workers are in short supply. And so that's an industry which has been left abandoned in Barbados, St. Kitts, Nevis, Antigua, St. Lucia and all of them. And they've gone into diversified, of course, golf courses in Barbados, tourist attractions and all of that. But we might not be able to attune ourselves to that. What then do? We give the land for what we had started off, alternative livelihoods in the APNU AFC government, which is a good thing, and which the agricultural experts all across the World Food Organization and everywhere have indicated is good for our country's food security. And we had a 4P program of prawns, pumpkins, pineapples, and peppers. And indeed, these are things, when you plant 1 acre and you reap the benefits there, it is almost 3 times in the case of the agricultural 4 tree that I gave you. And in prawns, about 6 to 10 times more than compared to sugar. So what you got to do now is to transform the cane cutters into agriculturalists who could understand how to do this policy at that level to make it go to other entrepreneurs. That when you cut the peppers or the pumpkins, what they will produce with it and so on. And that is why we need to have startups for entrepreneurs to do these kinds of things.
Yes.
You know, it is important because how long are we going to bank on this sugar and just pour good money, into a bad industry? It can't work. The economics teaches us that. Otherwise, you're going to go into the industries, into the government's coffers every year and you're going to just drag out 12 billion,
Yes.
14 billion, 14 billion dollars.
In the
And
industry.
yes, but when you could have utilized that to buy equipment,
Yes.
spawning ponds for prawns and so on, and when you produce that, you get 10 times the value more than sugar.
Yeah,
So it
you're
is
absolutely
important.
right. And to the Barbadians, and those who are working in the sugar industry, your parents, grandparents, look, we want to say as the Alliance for Change, thank you so much for your hard work in of keeping that particular industry, the sugar industry. And rightfully, like what Cameron is saying, we're doing away with manual labor. We have to now transform that industry into, we need to pronounce the word, mechanicize it,
Mechanization.
mechanization. Through mechanization, we're going to ensure that we have better harvest, better yield, and you don't have to work as hard. But what Camraj and our party believes as well is the same thing we're talking about: diversification. By having this four P's initiative,
Okay.
prawns, pepper, pumpkin, and what's the other one? Prawns, pepper, pumpkin,
Pineapples too. Yeah.
pineapples. By having that, you're going to be earning more money from it. And that is the start of creative thinking we need, especially in this economy when the cost of living is high. For too long, generations after generations have been working at the sugar industry for next to nothing. And ask yourself, under the PPP, did your life really improve? And to go through another generation of having your children work in the fields in the hot sun, that is not something that we envision for our young people. Kemrat just mentioned something about giving startups. As the Alliance for Change, through our Young People Initiative, and to give people a boost when it comes to being your own boss and entrepreneurship, we are going to be offering grants up to $1 million to give you a start in the business that you would like to lead. So we're not just maintaining an industry because of, you might be have been supporting a particular party for a long time. We want to maintain that. No, we want to see you grow. We want to see more money in your pocket so that your life improves. That is what the Alliance for Change is about. Okay, Raj?
And Devin, very foolishly, a couple PPP fellas, they come to my front yard. I gaff with them. And they're saying, Mr. Ramjatan, because they wanted to hear what we got to say, because I argue back with them. I know them, all of them probably were PYU boys with me and so on. And so I do generally have a discourse with them. And very foolishly, some of them would come up and say, but I ain't been there for 5 years. Why I ain't been do that for? I said, because we did not have a treasury that brings in $4 billion as a result of the oil monies. We did not have that. But what is it that the PPP is doing with the oil monies? Like last year, they took $666 billion and they said they're going to put it for infrastructural works. 50% of the works can't be completed in time. Some have not even been started. But they have given their friends and family contractors, crony capitalists, a whole set of front-up money and nothing in due. As a matter of fact, Ashley Singh and Wane Jill and Irfan Ali cussing some of the contractors. And you remember, he had a thing there where he cussed up a whole set of them, and he even cussed up, I think, another minister and so on. This is the problem with it. As Cherry would have taught us, you have to appreciate that when you get that kind of money, you don't put all into infrastructure. You have to put it for social and human development.
That's
You have
right.
to ensure that you increase the salaries of public servants and ensure that you give grants and all of that
That's right.
to peasant farmers, rice and whatever else, vegetables, bora, baigan, whatever, fertilizer and so on. But to go and give $666 billion last year out of the $1.3 trillion budget, that is a humongous amount of money, which has seen a lot of substandard projects.
Yeah.
Projects whereby schools and this and so on are built, and a lot of the low grade quality wood was taken. or roads were built and the roads collapsing and drainage and irrigation and so on, dams were built. One shower catch the dam, the whole blasted thing collapse. And then you got to take this year again another $400-500 billion for purposes of these things. Look, let me tell you something. This kind of mismanagement of the economy is what is happening here now under the PPP. And it has happened since Cheddi Jagan closed his eyes. This fella, Bar Jagdeo, they call him an economic czar, that he knows lots of economics. It's not true. You feeling it in your pocket now. Your country getting $4 billion US that could make all of us rich, and even acknowledged by the World Bank and the IMF and everybody that we have the fastest growing economy in the world. But the money is not seeping down to the ordinary cane cutter, rice farmer, laborer, and public servant in Berbice. It is not. And so this is the problem when you have a government that can't govern properly. Because what? They want the money for themselves. And how they do it? It is through contracts that they give to their friends and family and favorites, and then collect back a 10%, 20% drawback. You ask them buys up Berbice, they're those contractor fellas. How much it is going to pay this man and that man and all them people? It is the truth.
Yes.
And some of them don't know to do the contract work and so on. And they say, well, we do something, and they feel satisfied, and they pass the what is called the completion documentation, and then we draw down the rest of the money. And that is happening all over Berbice, all over with infrastructural works. The money is being stolen. And that is why that white girl that come, what's her name? Angela Young, Miss Young from Vice News. You remember?
Yes.
That catch Bharat Jagdeo was Sue Ipans. Sue? Who's Sue? Who's Sue? Who's Sue? And he got caught Sue in Ipans. That's the fella. One set of allegations of corruption with Chinese people and so on. And that man got the house next door and he landlorded it over to a tenant called Sue, who has got to arrange certain payments and all of that. Look, this thing is nasty. And I must tell you this. I want to tell you, Devin, and tell the Barbicians.
Yes.
We were in the People's Progressive Party. I was a leading member of the People's Progressive. When we changed the constitution that you must run 2 terms and no more. Jagdeo, however, is running, I think, the 5th term here. And he ain't coming off. You can't get what you call people like Obama and Clinton and so on come in as vice president. And when they come as vice president, they're in charge of everything. They're in charge of the aisle. They're in charge of how much loan you can take. And right now, up to this year, $8 billion US have been borrowed. Apart from the oil monies that we got now, you got borrowings of $8 billion US from all the projects that they said they want for doing this and that, and they ain't even got workers and contractors to do the work and so on, sea defense, this, that, whatever. Now, this is the economic czar that you're talking about that knows the economics of the country. That is why with all that money borrowed and all that money earned from oil and gas and some more oil from little rice, because sugar ain't got nothing, and some gold, all are going into mismanaged sectors and mismanaged projects. And a lot of thievery is happening there. And that is why the Transparency International is giving us a bad name.
Yeah, of course.
Big bad name.
With corruption. Kemraj, I'm happy that you mentioned that, because over the last, first of all, the appointment of, I want you to answer this question, when it comes to the Minister of Finance.
Hey, look, you got Mr. Nigel Hughes. Welcome him.
Joined by presidential candidate and leader of the Alliance for Change, Mr. Nigel Hughes. But Kemraj, coming back to this really quick point, we noticed that the Honorable Minister actually sings appointment. It says senior minister within the office of the presidency, let's put it that way, with responsibility for finance. That appointment, does it come with presidential immunity?
That is what they have done, because the when we passed that Financial and Management Act, FMAA, I think it is, and we made certain criminal offenses that if a minister were to spend illegally and do a couple of things that is wrong and unethical, and we made a crime out of these things. Unlawful spending, misappropriation of budgetary allocations, or spending of monies in an area where you're not supposed to spend it, and so on. Under that act, the minister is liable and he could be charged. And when you go to the interpretation section, the minister is the finance minister. Well, what they have done now is that they haven't changed the act, but what they have done is to redesignate what you call the Minister of Finance as minister within the Ministry of Presidency and all kind of fancy thing to negate. So really in law, we do not have a Minister of Finance under the act. So if he don't do any kind of thing, but that is pure foolishness, quite frankly, because the law is not an ass.
Mm-hmm.
You understand me?
Yeah.
And you could try your best way to avoid and evade, but this law could still catch you. But in any event, I suspect that is what Mr. Ashley Singh would like to have as his designation, because he feels that if he is made Minister of Finance, as you ought to, then unfavorably, if you do things, you can get charged under the act. Minister can be charged. And so, but that is how they try to avoid and evade the thing. And that is why up to now, for the last 5 years, under Irfan wanted him. He's regarded as highly educated, and indeed he is, Ghana scholar and all. And so he said, look, I enable this thing, Minister of Finance, I could be charged under that Financial Act, but put me as minister, and so he can be granted the presidential immunities because he comes under the Ministry of Presidency.
All right, thank you so much, Kemraj.
I wonder if I could just add one thing.
Please go ahead, Nigel.
To what Kemraj added. When they were assigning the portfolio for finance is actually assigned to the president. So the president technically is the Minister of Finance, and because the president has immunity from suit, he's the one that bears the ultimate responsibility for finance. So Ashley Singh will never be exposed because the person who is the de jure Minister of Finance is the president, and he gets immunity because he's the president.
That's the way they got out of it, yeah.
So they're right now the PPP is projecting themselves as untouchable. So they can do whatever they want with their majority that they got in Parliament, do whatever they want and be untouched. Wow. I hope the Barbicians and those viewing or live right now is paying attention. So Nigel, I'm sorry that you...
Sorry, let me perhaps start by apologizing for being late. We were all the way in Charity in the Pomeroon River, and getting back was a little bit more challenging than we had anticipated. So really sorry about that. I don't know if I could just pick up on the point again that you raised just now, which I really would like the listeners in Berbice to get. You know that whenever you have a majority government, there is nothing the opposition can do. They can't stop the budget. They can't challenge the budget. They can't challenge the budgetary allocations. They can't they can ask as many questions, but they have zero power. All you need is one seat and nothing gets done. If look at the amount of times last year, in the last financial year, that they have gone back to raid the Natural Resources Fund. And I would like the citizens of Guyana to understand that the opposition has no power, none, even if it is one seat less than the majority. The only time that you have any power as an opposition is when there is a minority government, because the government then has to come to the parliament and justify its spending. And that's important, because what happens then is that if they say a bridge in Skeldon costs $200 million, and you know the bridge, and the bridge ain't cost more than $20 million, we can ask questions and we can block the money that they want to siphon off to go to their friends. That can only happen when you have a minority government. It means that the government, the only time the government has to actually bring its financial information to the National Assembly is when you have a minority government. And that is why we keep saying split the vote and make sure we have, at the minimum, whether it's a PPP or a APNU, a minority government, because it doesn't matter who's going to be in there. The only time you will get any sort of accountability from who's sitting in office until we change this constitution would be with the minority government. So it doesn't matter which one. We want, even if it's the AFC, a minority government is what will actually be best for the country because it's the only time you're going to get answers and accountability.
Thank you. Well said. Nigel, one of the things that you have been campaigning on when it comes to Guyana's development, AFC so far is the only party that got a plan for every single region. For the Barbadians that are listening right now, they would like to know, what are the plans for them? Are they going to be left out? Are they included?
Not at all.
Good. Go ahead.
Not at all. And Barbadians, I mean regions 5 and 6. So let me come to region 5 first. Region 5, phases 2 and 3 of the MMA, which have never been undertaken, and this is since 1968 they've been designed, was to expand the rice production. I think everybody knows the rice crops have been good for the last 2 to 3 crops, relatively good. So increase the rice productions to phases 2 and 3. That's going to add probably the same amount of acreage as there is right now in the existing MMA. 2, there are a lot of those lands behind there for cattle farmers, for other sort of livestock development, which we are going to again expand. 3, and this shows, I think this demonstrates the short-sightedness and how expensive when you make silly political decisions. The location of the Berbice Bridge should never have been where it is. All the feasibility studies put it further down the Berbice River, Everton or somewhere like that. Narrower, less interruption. Ithaca, right. The PPP put it where it is because they wanted to bypass New Amsterdam. Now, what happens when you have a floating bridge is that the maritime traffic could only go up and down the river when the bridge is open. The bridge is only open twice per day. So it means that all the port development that you could have along the Berbice Bridge is dependent on 2 openings. So one of the things that we definitely have to do after they put it where it is, and as you know, financially, it makes absolutely no sense because the traffic is not what it is we need to be able to open both banks of the Berbice River as oil and gas facilities to supply the offshore facilities. And one of the things we're going to do is move that bridge. But to go to Region 6, again, Kanji, there is a lot of land behind Kanji. And if you remember, maybe about 10, 15 years ago, there was increased talk about investing in rice at the back of Kanji. The estates are going to be kept open. We now have to make sure that we have economically viable plans for the estates, not sugar, but how we convert those, because we are building a port in every region so that our agricultural products can actually get to the Caribbean market quickly. You don't have to, for example, if you're shipping pumpkins to Barbados, drive them to Georgetown to put them onto a boat to get to Barbados. We want a port both on the right bank in New Amsterdam and on the left bank, so that those boats, those schooners can pull up and you can pack them with all the fruits and vegetables packaged for the Caribbean tourist market, and the vessels can leave from there. 2, on fishing, we've seen, I think there's only one fishing company still open in Guyana, Pretty Paul Singh. All the rest have closed down. Nobody's done any study into why the fishing stock has dropped. One of the ways we have to revitalize this is to put fingerlings in the river so that we can start to resuscitate the fishing industry. If you go to D. Edward and all those villages there near the Berbice Bridge, very, very heavily dependent on fisheries, and they are struggling. Things are really, really bad. So we put a fingerlings pond there. We want to put a fingerlings pond in Demerara. And in each region, we are going to put the National Skills Academy. I don't know if you guys have spoken about it.
No, not go ahead.
That is to train both the people that never finished school and train everybody in new industries. And in Region 5, there'll be one, and in Region 6, there will be one. You get trained for 10 to 12 months, you get certified after you pass the exams, and then we find you the jobs in the oil and gas industry or the construction industry or wherever you got trained. Plus, if you don't want to do that, but you're more adventurous, so you want to set your own business up, we give you the tools, and we also give you the financial advisors who will help you for 2 years to make sure that your business gets going. Because as you know, we're up to 900,000 barrels. We're going to be up to 1.2 in a year and a half, and then we're going to be up to 2 million in 2030. We want to make sure that Guyanese get qualified to get those jobs, so we don't end up with Bangladeshi truck drivers rather than Guyanese trained to drive trucks. And similarly, all the trucks bringing the stone from the quarry. We are going to definitely revisit what's happening up the Berbice River at Rusal, to make sure that the unassigned blocks, we can enter into business arrangements for them and make sure that we get communities like Kokwani back operational.
Yeah.
Everybody forgets the intermediate savannas. What's the area just up from Takama?
Bini.
Ibini.
Yes.
Absolutely, Ibini. Since the Brits were here, Ibini was identified as the area in which you can have great agricultural expansion. I was up there the other day. They move all the black belly sheep up there. They're not looking after them. The cattle farmers, they're not looking after. And of course, the mega farms just on the other side, on the left bank of the Berbice River, that whole area for Takama, where there's soya farms.
Yeah.
I think there's a joint venture with some Guyanese companies that they're growing soya. They're essentially for chicken feed. All of that's going to be planned development. And I do want everybody to know that one of our major goals is to make sure that you can drive to every single region of the country. So if the people in Berbice want to go to the border with Venezuela, they should be able to drive and do that. So it's that integration. But those are the plans that we have, particularly in Berbice. For a lot of the people who get qualified, we are going to set up a mini tech city so that people can get trained in technology, because one of the areas we want to make sure that we are keeping up with the modern world with the AI and the tech, and a heavy focus in the school system on that. So those are just a couple of things. Sorry that I'm rushing through.
No, we have an extended version tonight. We're going all the way to 9:30, right? Cameron, I'm just going to ask you to come in here, because this major transformation that Nigel is talking about when it comes to Berbice and how it's going to be developed, some residents might not understand the magnitude of it and how it will directly affect them. And then I'm going to come back to Nigel with one specific question. Exploration onshore. Mm-hmm. What are the likelihoods of that? And will Berbice area be one of those areas for consideration for onshore exploration? Well, Cameron, go ahead, please.
Yeah, no, it will be a positive benefit for Berbicians. Look, I came from 47 Village, and I realized how powerful it was when the road networks were being constructed. We had a red brick road there when I was a schoolboy. And then when they did all of this fancy highway, and it was so beautifully done, a couple of my neighbors, they bought trucks. And with those trucks, they used to bring the greens, Bora, Baigan, and so on, to Georgetown. Immediately, the prices for all the farmers in and around 47 Village, Blackbush, and so on, jumped up. Immediately, also, you had more supply at Border Market. And it also made that middleman, I forgot his name now, who became a multimillionaire. He built a house next to ours because he was doing fantastically well. And Gene and Rama, I think their names were. And the thing has a kind of a nuclear effect. whenever you do certain righteous things with your economy and the industry. It has spin-off effects that are humongous. And then, of course, when he come to Georgetown, if anybody want to buy furniture from AH&L Kissoon, because that was the big furniture, they put up on the truck and he make a little small piece going back to quarantine with the truck, mattresses or whatever. And he said Georgetown got the best furniture and so on. Of course, quarantine had good furniture too. But you know, this is the whole idea. It then makes great distances turn short. And as a result, you get to know Guyana, you get to do the economics of Guyana, you become a participant in it. And that is what we are all about. We want an integrated community. And the integration of the community can come with all those projects that Nigel just mentioned. But it is also, as I have said before, when you're doing the projects, you get genuine contractors to do it, not mint money out of it, and crony capitalist class then emerges. You have to get good standards, high quality work for a just price and all of that. And it is important then that that be appreciated, that how we're going to make this journey to better the economics of the country. I see my good friend Jaipal Sharma here, and he knows a lot about these matters. So thanks for being on the show, Jaipal, and let us carry on the conversation. We were just talking about some of the major projects that we have at hand coming from Nigel, and of course we'll have some of the other aspects of that manifesto that you can talk about.
Sorry, Devin, I want to jump in also on the rice, the existing rice production. Places like Nari, who are supposed to be doing research into the different types of paddy that we should be using and planting, the different sets of seeds. We were in Blackbush, Kemraj and I, we went up, I think it was when they had a little difficulty at the end of the last crop.
Yeah.
And there's a Nari facility there that has been closed. We're not doing research into how we improve the content and quality of the soil. All those support services, which really should be provided to the farmers so that their yields increase. As you know, in Essequibo, they get between 35 and 40 bags an acre. They don't get that in Berbice. And what the government really should be doing with facilities like Nari and the research facilities is supplementing and making sure that the research facilities are there, that they get the best quality paddy. And in the fertilizer, which is where most farmers are complaining, the government has to get back into the business of supplying fertilizer at competitive rates and not leave it necessarily for the miller to do that. Because what the miller does is provide the credit, provide the fertilizer and credit, and then of course they deduct when the time comes to pay at the end of the crop. And there's always an argument about what is the value of the fertilizer. We should go back to the days where the government is providing that fertilizer, because this is one of the industries we want to identify as essential for food security.
Of course.
It is absolutely critical for Guyana's food security. And the government should also get into the business of buying and stockpiling rice in silos. I think it was today, Jaipal and I, when we were going to Charity, we had a brief discussion on that. So I just wanted to touch on that. But you did ask me a question which I forgot. What was the second part of the question?
The second part of the question had to do with exploration.
Yes.
Offshore, we have oil various blocks, Stabroek Block, Kanji, Quarantine, etc. But
onshore.
Onshore. I know a large chunk of Region 5 and Region 6 are somewhat uninhabited. I want to know, with all the plans that the AFC has in terms of diversification, if it makes sense to do oil exploration first before we head into that second stage of diversification.
I'm glad you mentioned that. And this is where historic records are so important. I was having a conversation with a businessman who left there about 40, 50 years ago. And he says up the Berbice River, this is back in the late 50s, they used to actually literally scoop oil by Mara or somewhere and use that to cook. There have been several sightings where oil has actually come to the surface, and we kind of dismiss it back in the day because it was a small village. We know when Hunt Oil was here, they found oil onshore down in Lethem. All this data is available, whether anecdotally or otherwise, and we need to reassess it. Most of the foreign investors are interested only in offshore oil, but it may well be that our onshore potential for oil is significant. Now, what part of what we should be doing with this money we get from oil is setting up a true oil and gas research capacity, which is beginning to map exactly potentially what we have, and start to do our own exploration, so we don't have to rely on foreign expertise.
Yes.
And that is the kind of innovative environment and thinking that we want. So the young engineers coming out of school, the young petroleum engineers, they can take our data, look at all the historic information you have, because where Guyana is old earth, and they probably will find onshore oil. Now, my caution is we have to be able to manage this. We have to set up the institutions, Petroleum Commission, because as it is, we are not managing the money that we have very well at the moment. And if you keep pouring more money in a flawed system, we are going to be in difficulty. So let's concentrate in the next 5 years in getting the sort of economic, financial institutions in place with the best qualified people, both locally and internationally. So we put some structure to where we are. But I'm fully in favor of onshore exploration, but I don't want it. It's got to be done in a structured way. So, like I said, our 15-year plan, we have to decide when we're going to explore, and if we explore and we find, we're not going to rush into commercial production. We want to be able to get the best possible deal. We've learned from our mistakes, and that's the sort of environment that we want.
Right.
But enough from me.
No problem. Thank you very much, Nigel. And I think the Barbadians and folks watching are really excited about that, because now from you transitioning from rice farming, sugarcane farming, and picking coconut in the back dam, to possibly being the wealthiest region if oil is found onshore. And this here creates a lot of opportunities for the folks here in Berbice. Sharma, would you agree with that? And what does the new Berbice look like if that becomes a reality?
Well, yes, I totally agree with what our leader, President Kenneth Nigel, had put forward there, and it seems that he knows exactly what he's speaking about. I was impressed. He takes me back. I wonder if he's an oil expert in terms of
Yes, he is.
protection. But this is great. This is great news. I'm learning some things here. He sounds like Dr. Adams. So I don't know. This is very good. Very good. So yes, we can't neglect our other sectors. As we know, we want to be a manufacturing powerhouse, like our neighbor, Brazil, and we could learn a lot from Brazil, and Brazil also have a lot of technology in oil and gas, and a lot of expertise there too. So we must look at food security, and I think you asked a question if we should explore onshore oil because it could utilize land that we need to cultivate. No, I don't think it would affect the land mass. Guyana is very large, and most of the arable lands are located in the coastlands. As I mentioned before, the PVP government, because of poor planning, put house lots on those arable lands. So we need to do a planning in relation to our housing program and of the things of that nature. So we allow the arable lands to be utilized by the farmers. We know the cost of living is because there's a shortage of food on the market. Because right now, the country have excessive liquidity, and because of the excess liquidity and the shortage of the supply, food supply, fruits and vegetables, that is one of the effects of the inflation. And so it's too much money chasing after a few goods, and that is what is causing the inflation. So we need to encourage agriculture, and we should not shy away from that. not just agriculture, the fishery sector. And today we went into the Region 2, Essequibo, and as of course, what Nigel say is true. The farmer is using a very good variety of rice and is have a very good yielding potential. In Leguana, some farmers get as much as 50 bags per acre. I don't know why is this the situation in those areas, and of course, Borbishan did not get that kind of yield. Also, the issue of landlordism, and we want to deal with that issue. Where the rice farmers don't, the people that cultivate the rice do not own the land. The land is owned by somebody living in North America, and then they will have to give so many bags or cash per acre. So that sum of money add up very much when the crop time come, and so you could get landlords, Guyanese living in diaspora coming in to Guyana to receive hundreds of millions of dollars to carry back overseas. And that is one of the reasons we have a shortfall of U.S. currency in the banks, because the Cambiers are selling, converting these money that the landlords are collecting and sending it back overseas. So we know this is a big issue. The PAP is definitely a failure when it comes to managing the finances of this country. It's affecting business throughout, but the business community do not want to speak out because, of course, they're supporter of the government. So they stay quiet. For you to get foreign currency to carry out your business in Guyana, you have to know some bank manager or the governor of Bank of Guyana or something like that to call to ensure that you get enough money to carry out your transaction in U.S. currency. This is a terrible failure of this administration, and it's something that we will address. So we need to have those farmlands in the hands of the rice farmers, and they really could get as the rice farmers could get as much more money in their pocket. Just imagine today, at this day and age, 10 years ago, rice farmers was receiving 4,500 a bag. Today, they're fighting to receive $4,000 a bag for paddy. They're saying 4,000. So, and this is not reflected at the price you paying for a gallon of rice in the market. That is not the price, because when we were in government, rice was selling like about 80% less than what it's selling for today. But yet the farmer is receiving less in terms of Guyana dollars for a bag of paddy, and this is amazing how this is happening. And when you look at inflation, that 4,000 that they're collecting today is probably not an equivalent to what they collected in our time. So this is very important. So rice farmers indeed need to get a better deal and support. We're going to set up a price stabilization fund for paddy. So if paddy should fall below a certain price, that stabilization fund going to kick in. We have issues with the Essequibo rice farmers complaining about irrigation water not being sufficient, and the cost for the water to utilize in the planting process. We have a number of complaints that farmers in Region 2 complain that they have to dump paddy because the millers are taking advantage of them. If the miller wants to give paddy farmers a specific price and paddy farmers complain against the miller do not take their paddy. Allow the paddy to rot in the trucks, and then the farmers have no other choice to dump it. But rice in its whole is very lucrative business. Even if you have the worst type of paddy and you're producing the worst grain of rice, there's pet rice now in the market. In our time, it was $300 a bag. Now it's like $1,100, $1,200 a bag for pet rice. So the millers is not making a loss, because when they reject the rice, they don't give it back to the planter. They say they're throwing it away, but they're packaging it and they're selling it in the supermarket. I don't know if you have pets home, but this is the price for a bag of pet rice. And so this is the reality. So we're going to ensure that we protect the rice farmers. And we're going to, create a storage facility, drying facility for them. So if the miller cannot take off that amount of rice, they should. The government will have a facility that will dry and store the rice. And this is something important that our rice farmer community and farmers should know. Why are you penalizing rice farmers because they're producing more? They're getting more per acre. Why? I can't imagine, right? So we need to encourage them and promote when they do good husbandry in terms of the field to reward them and say you're doing good. So we say to the rice farmers, we have your back, and just you need to support us. We're going to support you with all what you need in your community, in your farming area, and we also go into cash crop and also fruits and vegetables. We need to produce more, much more.
Right. Thank you very much, Ajay Paul. Thank you very, very much. Cameras, I know right now as we head into elections, a lot of concern is looming as it relates to those unsolved cases in terms of murders and stuff like that. In the case of Adriana Young and the guys from Linden and even the Henry boys. And in terms of security, you were the Minister of Public Security during the coalition era. Can you give some sort of guidance as it relates to how the Alliance for Change will deal with the issue of security, even onshore and offshore, in the cases of some of our fishermen, the fisher folks being, facing piracy and different sorts of things?
Well, as a minister, we negotiated with the relevant security agencies across Suriname, and we managed to have collaboration from folks in the USA and certain intergovernmental agencies in Guyana. And we brought piracy down. You remember when every day, literally, you used to get a piracy incident under the PPP? We brought it down, squashing it literally completely. I notice it is coming back now. Look, you have to have a political will to do the correct things in relation to security. One of the correct things that the Alliance for Change will certainly do immediately upon coming into government would be, of course, to get rid of a commissioner of police, Mr. Hicken, who was indicated that he was there to collect an $8 million as a gift for Brutus' wedding. Where the hell you just hear about that? A commissioner of police. And if you can't frontally acknowledge that and say, well, okay, we reach 55 now, go along your way, what Irfan Ali and Jagdeo has done is to grapple the man and squeeze him up and embrace and say, you will continue to be the commissioner probably until 60 years now. So 55 passed him since last year, and he now continued to be it. Look, the Americans don't like that. State Department don't like that. There are a lot of people in the diplomatic company course don't like that. That is the kind of political will you got to get. You have to have what is called, you can't treat these people with any respect as a result of what they have done. Zero tolerance, it is called. And that is what I did whilst as public security minister. I also didn't have all the answers. So you called in the British security sector personnel that wanted to give the PPP prior to 2015 £3.4 million to ensure that they could get better ideas as to how to deal with the security sector. No, the PPP said did not accept it. As soon as we went into government, the AFC, as minister, and of course Mr. Granger gave me a handle in it. I said immediately come to the ambassador, the high commissioner, sorry, and they came and it was settled, literally settled. And Russell Coombe came, a man that was a senior ranking officer in the Metropolitan, you call it Scotland Yard. Scotland Yard, that's the reputable institution. And he came, he had a look at the police crime scene development, this, that, a whole set of things. And it was his expertise because he advises government, Bangladesh, and I don't know where he went. And he saw the same problems like in Ghana, and he wrote up in with a lot of other consultants a whole heap of recommendations. Who you must have as recruits, what should be the payment for the recruits, bettering the police station, this and that, and also training how to deal with crime scenes and a whole set of things. And even in relation to human resource, what it should be the quality of the superintendents and assistant commissioner and all kind of things. And all of them left there. You know, we had indicated that as soon as we win the next election, that is the 2020 elections, we would implement them because we would have gotten the monies from oil to do that. You know, all them recommendations have been left on the shelves. None are being implemented. And that is why you get deaths now, fires, you get all manner of things happening in Ghana. The road deaths, traffic, the infrastructure is not there. People are getting their license, buying their license from some people. I don't know how they could drive like that. And then the congestions, no idea as to how to solve the problem. In quarantine right now, every other day another person die, a motorcyclist, this body crash into some car, a big truck that is parked next to the parapet. And there has been a private invasion of public spaces. You go in quarantine now, all along the blasted road, them big contractor by, got about 40, 50 dragline and excavator next to the parapet, as if that parapet belongs to them. And they're not doing anything about it. And it has seen the crashing in of cars and motorcyclists killing our sons and daughters. But the PPP, they want to live good with them contractor by. So that's if you don't have the political will to tell them, move those things, carry them away. One edge he'll tell us in Parliament that he's going to do that. He never did it because elections time is around. He want money from them contractor by. So donations to the party. So he ain't going to tell them nothing.
Yes.
But nothing will happen. But that is what you got to do. And when you don't have the quality of investigators and so on, you go and ask Scotland Yard. You go and ask the FBI to come in. Like the Adriana thing and so on. But they don't want to ask nobody because they want cover-ups, a whole set of cover-ups. And that is the basis for the criticism of me and some others in relation to the police force of how it's being run now.
Yeah.
And the genuine police officer who wants to see professionalism into the police force, they're not seeing it. And that is why, I want you guys to listen to Paul Slow and Conway. They have a great handle on this thing. And for security, they are doing a fantastic job of critiquing how this government is corrupt in relation to the police force and how the police force itself is made up of a lot of people who are corrupt.
And so to add to what Cameron say, indeed the PPP is undoubtedly the most corrupt government in this hemisphere. No other than the sitting president have 19 charges against him. No other than his ministers of his previous cabinet charges against them. These are financial crime charges, fraud charges against them. Malfeasance in public office, taking the property of the people, land of the people, and converting it for housing for themselves. And when they came into office, what they did, they dropped the charges against them own self. We're going to go after those charges back again. We get back into office, all those charges against the president when he was Minister of Housing, and even the former president when he was the president of this country. We need to recover those assets. We need to have accountability. Now, you can't blame our Guyana police force for involving corruption when they're seeing it happening at the level of government, the level of the presidency, the second vice president. Let's imagine a person going into the second vice president house and undercover and having revelations that shock this entire Guyana and the diaspora about the level of corruption. And all what the second vice president could say is that he don't know who is Sue, and Sue was a tenant, and he's searching for Sue, and up now we can't find Sue. This is the situation we're facing. So corruption is indeed embedded. It's in the DNA of the PPP. We spoke about the I don't know. Well, we know the Americans is fighting a drug war in our hemisphere. They attacking Venezuela in relation to Colombia in relation to drugs going into North America. But here, right here in Guyana, we had a fine in Region One at the
Okay.
airstrip there of of billions of dollars in drugs and tons of drugs.
Yeah.
And this government cannot say if they're going to deal with the commander of that division. So, this is what is happening, and corruption is pervasive. We have, and business people should take note, especially come Monday, the 1st of September 2025, when they will put in that X against a political party that they believe are going to lead this country honestly and justly for them and for development of this country. They must know it's no other than the government themselves is competing against the business people for their own business. Government ministers have high-rise buildings. They have call centers. They even involved in rice. In Essequibo, I heard a very senior person in government is responsible for the situation of the rice price in Essequibo because that individual is in partner with one of the rice miller.
Oh my.
We have government official in pizza parlor. We have government official in supplying heavy duty machineries. We have government official in the mining and diamond sector, in the rice sector, in the forestry sector, the quarry sector. Even the acting commissioner of police wanted a sandpit. So this is the situation. So these individuals are being handsomely paid with taxpayers' money, but yet they want to compete against the private sector. And private sector should wake up and say, "Here, you're a politician, stay in your lane and leave business to we." This is what the AFC going to do. We are politicians. We're gonna set the standards. We're gonna set the regulation, and we're going to ensure business people get business and do business.
That's
As a
right.
matter of fact, I spoke on your program the last time that we're going to focus on the Small Business Act, and we're going to ensure that that amount of contract that we go into small business, not 20% of government contracts, works and services, but will be 50%. Because people may say it's impossible, there's a capacity issue. There's not a capacity issue when you change the criteria for a small business, because the criteria right now is that you must have less than 25 employees to be a small business. Your revenue, your gross revenue must be 60,000, below 60,000, and your assets must be below. Sorry, yeah, 60,000, 60 million. Your assets must be below 20 million. Now, if you're a small contractor building road right now and you got the excavator, that excavator alone is 30 million. So definitely those figures will have to change. And
Yeah.
so you will have in your pool of small contractors that have workforce of 100, 150 consider as small business. We could have a contractor that have a revenue base of 300-400 million consider small business, that have asset base that is 300-400 million is considered as a small business. So that is how 50% of government works could go to the small contractors.
That's commendable, Sharma, and we really appreciate the work that you've been doing in terms of ensuring that we create those safety nets, financial safety nets for our society and everything. And you can, to our viewing audience, you can look up on what we're offering small businesses and the business sector in our manifesto. It's available right there. Just head across to our Facebook page, Alliance for Change. We just have about 12 minutes more, and I want to yield all the time to
Yeah, go right ahead, Nigel.
But Nigel, I want you to touch on something as you add to what Sharma and Mr. Ramjatan has mentioned. We have seen several security firms in our country popping up, and they have various gun licenses. Some of them even seem a little bit more equipped than our joint services. How does the Alliance for Change intend to tackle, not necessarily tackle, but to ensure that things don't get out of control and we create a paramilitary in our country?
It's very, very useful question, and I'm going to yield to Kemraj, but I do want to make this point. A lot of the security companies that came into being have been going out of business because all the government contracts are going to two or three contractors. As you know, Sheriff Security came on the scene and it has literally knocked out dozens of security companies. They're getting all the contracts, and they're providing security left, right, and center to all the government facilities. And one of the things that we don't track in Guyana is where a lot of this capital is coming from. We want a business environment, but at the same time, we want to make sure that there is fair competition in the market. And let me just give you an example. If you set up your security company and you have modeled it out, so many precepts, so many armed guards, so many baton guards, etc., and somebody who has got a lot of illegal money and wants to launder it suddenly comes into that market. You probably budgeted for 2-3 cars that you could use to carry your guards around in the night, and they suddenly buy a fleet of 40, and they buy a whole set of guns, and they connect it to the police force. The source of that money, which is questionable, is passing through that security firm to legitimize the proceeds of it. But what you're doing is you're actually killing people who are genuinely in that business who can't compete with illegal money. And it's not just in the security industry, it's in several industries. So we want to create a healthy business environment in which we filter out a lot of that money that is passing through for laundering.
That is being laundered. It is being laundered. Yeah.
Think about it. You just touched on it. $250 million worth of cocaine was buried in Region 1. Buried. In this day and age, there is not a square millimeter anywhere in this planet that the satellites can't pick up. 15 years ago, people were amazed that the Americans could read your number plate from the sky. Now they can see the pebbles on the street. They know when that cocaine arrived. They knew how it came by a plane. They knew the equipment that was used to bury it. All these things are there. And you would have thought that after we are embarrassed by them having to come and tell us that it's there, that it would have been a logical investigation, and we would have asked them to assist us and conduct a joint collaborative investigation, because $250 million cocaine got to get paid somewhere in the United States, or it's got to get paid somewhere. So it's not just the physical cocaine in Guyana, it's follow the money chain. But we know nothing, not a single investigation. One man is moved. So think about it. An election in Guyana doesn't cost $10 million US. Costs less, right? You could buy an election in Guyana for $10 million. $10 million is, they had $250 million US. So if you want an administration, if you are in illegal activity that you ultimately could control, it is not a very heavy investment. Not a very heavy investment. And that's the danger we face. We don't realize what we're playing with on the global market. And those guys are really unscrupulous. They're not play unscrupulous. And once a country ends up in that state of affairs, it's like a cancer. The entire society gets corrupted and everything goes. So I did want to touch on that aspect. The other thing I want to touch on, I know we have less time.
Go ahead and complete the time, Nigel.
Kemraj spoke about the police. We want a modern police force. My God, every night on TV, everybody's looking at CSI. How difficult is it to put a modern lab with modern equipment and increase the qualification, entrance qualifications for people who want to get into the police force? Science solves a lot of things. Long ago, we used to solve crimes by beating up the person and getting a confession statement. You don't need that. The science actually does that for you. So we need to spend money on improving our investigative capacities.
Yes.
But we're not interested in that. I think it was last week I mentioned, I went to Shanghai with my wife, and we had the privilege of going into the police headquarters because they were looking at smart cities. Huge room, I can't remember, 200 screens. You know, if there is an incident, they can shut that city down of 20 million people in 5 minutes, and on facial recognition alone, identify the suspects and arrest them. We are a minuscule society. We have the cameras. Why is it that we still can't solve crimes?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I want people to understand it's not difficult. The technology is there. It is not difficult. And on the financial side, you can't move a penny in this world, at least electronically, without leaving a trace.
Yeah.
So once we have the treaties and the collaborations with the international agencies, and because we have the money, we say, look, you're going to have to start giving us some of that information, and we are going to ask you to help us prosecute people over there if they're taking government money and laundering it and carrying it all over the world. You can't fly with 200 gold bars. So there are other ways in which the money is sourced and kept and invested. And we all know about that. Corruption, what they do, they take the money to the local banker. The banker converts it into gold bars. And those gold bars are kept. No. So if you get a bribe of $300 million and you go to the court, when I say banker, I mean unofficial banker, and you buy the gold bars, and in the date you buy the gold bars, the price is 2,500 US an ounce. And in a week it goes up to 3,000. You realize how much money you make there? It is more money than if you put it in the bank or bought stocks. And that is what's happening in Ghana. A lot of this money is getting converted into gold and being held. And when the people want it, because they know that they can't pass it through the system, because every US dollar has to cross the US system. So we have to change all of that. But I know we got like 5 minutes left, probably less, 4 minutes.
So if you may, Nigel, as we wrap things up, to our viewing audience out there in Berbice and even online, the Alliance for Change is contesting in all administrative regions. And in just a quick rundown, we have a 100 days plan. What can Guyana expect, the Barbicians expect, after Monday, the 1st of September, when the Alliance for Change gets into government, the first 100 days? And I know you might not have time to go through all.
No. The expert in this is Jai Paul. Is he still with us? I'm seeing
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
We're not seeing you though, Jai Paul. Just touching a couple of the things, but let me just run on a couple of them. For the school children, the most important thing for us is education. We're paying $225,000 per year per child to the parent. We're providing transportation for every student in this country to school, bus, boat, ATV, whatever means.
Yeah.
2, we are providing uniforms for every child in the school. 3, in the school, we are going to completely eliminate this child food poverty, which is currently extreme child food poverty, which is currently at 20%. Every single student in every school will get 2 fully international nutrient content meals. Every child.
Yeah.
So that we eliminate in less than 6 months. Matter of fact, we will cut it in half in the first 100 days. This child food poverty. We can't, after 5 years of production, have child food poverty. Every single person that turns 18 will get a house lot, because this is the only way you're going to get a stake in your country. The way the house prices are going, that is what is going to happen. Pensions, old people, $100,000. And for Christmas, you're going to get an extra bonus of $100,000. For the old age pension, we're considering lowering the age at which you become entitled to get it. We are going to put in place laws that deal with the whole idea of transfers of wealth, whether you call them cash grants, because you need a statutory framework. We are proposing 15% of whatever the gross income is from oil in any given year, we do a direct first straight to the citizens, unless the economists advise us to the contrary. So that way, people will be guaranteed. There will be a statutory framework. You will have a grievance procedure. If somebody doesn't give it to you, you have a procedure established. And that is what we're going to do. I don't want to go through the oil and gas plan, but I will say this. Christopher Ram, the most independent analyst in this country, has rated the Alliance for Change's oil and gas policy as the best of all the political parties. The best. The best. And this is a party in which they said Raphael Trotman signed a bad contract and that my law firm worked for Exxon. And after all of that, I have to commend David Patterson and
Vince
Dr.
Adams.
Adams for putting together for the Alliance for Change the best of the policy. In addition to that, everything that we have proposed, light rail, from Diamond to Georgetown, Mahika to Georgetown, Durban Park as a transportation hub, a separate Ministry of Transportation. All those ideas have come from the Alliance for Change, and people have followed. And so I just want to say to the people of Berbice and the country that the party that has consistently come up with new, sustainable, innovative ideas that has been followed by others and suddenly put in their manifestos, the only party that has been leading in that is the Alliance for Change. We have consistently done that. And so it means then that the Alliance for Change is the only one that is really equipped to provide the modern, creative leadership to take this country to a new level. We don't want a new and improved Guyana. We want a completely new republic. We are living in a different era, and we are blessed to have the revenues. So I just want you to begin to dare to dream of what a modern Guyana is going to look like, particularly in all the regions, and what it does. The people who have migrated are going to want to come back. Quarantine Region 6, empty right now. People are going to have the confidence and they're going to come back. And they're going to invest in Guyana. That's the kind of future we want to create. And we guarantee you we will create it.
Well said, Nigel. Ladies and gentlemen, we've exhausted our time here on Dave TV. We want to say special thanks to Prakash Ramjatan. Kermez, thank you so much for joining us. The founder, one of the founders of the Alliance for Change, also former minister with responsibility for public security. Also, we want to say thanks to Mr. Jaipal Sharma, who was the junior minister within the Ministry of Finance, and also he's one of our finance experts. So, Jaipal, thank you for joining us. And also, Mr. Nigel Hughes, our presidential candidate, a man that has been representing every single Guyanese from the coastline to the hinterland. And of course, we are expecting him to become Guyana's next president. But we need your help. We need you to head out there early on Monday, the 1st of September from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and cast your vote resoundingly for the Alliance for Change. You heard all the plans that we have when it comes to transforming Berbice and Guyana. But we cannot do it alone. We need your vote of confidence. So when you head out there to the polls, 2 times you're going to be voting. Look for the key and put your X within that box. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for staying tuned. Until next week, when we come back here to say, well, thank you so much for your vote. I've been your host, David Sayers. Wish you God's richest blessings. Have a good night.
Thank you and good night, Berbice.